Good evening, everybody. My name is Shaylin Parker. I am an advocate and educator with Green Amendments for the Generations, and you're here tonight at our People's Action Guide launch. We're really excited to be debuting this brand new resource. It's been and longer, really, in the making because we wanted this toolkit to be useful and accessible to every advocate in our Green Amendment movement, whether you live in a state that already has a Green Amendment, or you live in a state that's working to secure Green Amendment rights. So here on this title slide, you can see both of our guides. Today, for this launch, we're talking about our guide for uplifting and enforcing Green Amendment protections. So this guide is going to be applicable to you if you live in a state with a Green Amendment. So if you live in Pennsylvania, Montana, or New York. But you might notice if you check out both of our guides, there's a lot of overlapping information since it's just useful in each guide to go over Green Amendment concepts and general points about the values of Green Amendments and what they offer to, climate change movements, to environmental justice movements, so on and so forth. Move to my next slide. So as some of us here on the call, I'm assuming that most of us are familiar with Green Amendments. And if you are not super familiar, we can make sure to follow up in our email with some other resources so you can build up your foundational knowledge of what a Green Amendment is. Here I'm going to lay out, in its simplest terms, what a Green Amendment is. So Green Amendments protect our human right to clean air, pure water, a safe climate, and healthy environments. Depending on where you live, you may see some other environmental rights listed as well. They cover these environmental rights for both present and future generations. So not only do you have to protect these resources for us here today, but you also have to keep in mind future generations to come. And Green Amendments apply to all individuals, regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, tribal affiliation. They are for all people to be applied equally and equitably. But when it comes to actually securing and advocating for Green Amendments or even applying some of your Green Amendment rights, that gets a little bit more complex. So for states working to secure Green Amendments, we're required to get them added to the state constitution, usually through a legislative pathway that involves votes of the people. So there are simultaneous legislative and grassroots components, and similar for states with Green Amendments, there's going to be grassroots components as well as some legal components, since now that it's a right that you could bring to bear in a courtroom. There are many people unaware of the power of Green Amendments, and not only in states that are working to secure them. Many people who live in states with Green Amendments might not be aware that these environmental rights are enshrined in that highest possible position in your state constitution. And some people aren't sure how to apply them and to make best use of them. So how do we go about approaching individuals, organizations, or entire communities, empowering them with their Green Amendment rights and trying to teach people how they can use them to secure a better future and prevent pollution in the first place? How do we share this information in an accessible way? How do we answer questions that come up? These were some of our guiding questions when we were developing this toolkit that we're launching tonight. And we also asked, how do we go about building a statewide Green Amendment coalition? Because whether you're working to secure a Green Amendment or working to make powerful use of your existing Green Amendment rights, it requires the effort of an entire coalition. So these People's Action Guides are your tools for securing and uplifting Green Amendment protections. Inside of each of the toolkits, you'll find an overview of the Green Amendment concept. You'll get some information about how Green Amendments work. They get some of the content of the toolkits introduces you to some legal concepts that are helpful to understand in your Green Amendment advocacy. We also talk about specifically how green amendments are valuable for preventing climate change and securing environmental justice for all communities. In each of our guides, we go over some existing green amendments, legal and advocacy victories, and how they've made a difference. Depending on which toolkit you're looking at, we will talk about either how to secure, or in our case here tonight, how to use a green amendment in your state. And let me see, my little participants windows in the way here. Um, we also give you an entire list of recommended resources that we have developed over, the past 10 plus years of the Green Amendment movement. And there's even more little extras depending on which toolkit you're looking at tonight. Like I've continually mentioned, there are two different versions of the toolkit. Each of them has unique content. One is for states with green amendments, and the other is for states in the process of securing them. When you go ahead, and I'll give you a link so that you can get your copies today, you'll see links where you can download both of them. You still may be interested in checking out both of them. I would say that the resource for states working to secure green amendments go a little bit more into the process of building a grassroots movement from scratch, and also talk more about the legislative pathways when you're going about advancing a green amendment in the legislature. So there are certainly helpful tools in each one, and I encourage folks, if you're curious, to check out each one. So without further ado, let's quickly flip through our advocacy guide together. So I'm going to escape here, and I'm switching windows. Can everybody see that now I've got a Google Drive window open? Yes, got a thumbs up here. So right now I just have this guide blown up large so everybody can see the font, but this here is our People's Action Guide to Uplifting and Enforcing Green Amendment Protections. Ideally, you'll be able to use this to put your state's Green Amendment into action. So you'll see some of the sections that I talked about before. We've got some history and background on green amendments, where we're at today in terms of the national movement. And then the guide starts to get more and more specific, going from how a green amendment works, specific uses of green amendments in environmental justice and climate contexts. We will go over this section because this is the most unique section in this guide for states that have Green Amendment protections. We'll walk through, and then you'll see how it's laid out with some certain advocacy strategies. And then, of course, we go into our recommended resources. This is just to give you, an idea of what you'll be looking at, so it's not a brand new document when I give you the link to download your own copy. And I do just want to highlight this page because I think that this page gives a great summary of why you might be interested in downloading this guide and reading through it and possibly using it in your Green Amendment advocacy. So you will find an overview of why our current legal system fails to provide essential protections for the environment. You will get guidance on how to advocate with Green Amendment environmental rights as part of your environmental protection work. You'll get information on how your state's Green Amendment can and should strengthen efforts to secure environmental justice and generational climate protection in your state. We have some educational and advocacy event ideas. And throughout this guide, in many different places, you will see pathways to connect early and often with movement founder Maya Van Rossum and our Green Amendments for the Generations organization. We want to be key partners in your efforts. So that being said, after this launch today, if you or a group that you work with would be interested in having a one-on-one presentation where we walk through the guide and maybe talk through some more specifics for your environmental work and how a Green Amendment might apply there. In your advocacy efforts, we are more than happy to connect with your group to share even more resources or even just hop on a call and discuss things. So many times you'll see little reach out to us bubbles and contact information, and I really encourage folks to take advantage of that. We want to be a resource for you. So, like I said, you have these different sections with, going over the Green Amendment concept. I won't go ahead and scroll through every single page. I think that would even make me a little bit dizzy right now, but I would love to jump into just to demonstrate um, this section on how you can utilize your state's Green Amendment, because this is where the action piece of the toolkit. So the first part's focused on building up your knowledge so you feel confident in your Green Amendment advocacy, and now we give you strategies to put it to work. Um, so, of course, we talk about how you can advocate for your environmental rights through many means. For example, if you're getting involved with local or state decision making, we have some sample comments that you can use. Again, just reminding your state and local governments of their obligation to uphold your Green Amendment rights. Um, we talk about the power of educating others and give you some samples of how you might want to do that. Um, and most of all, we just give you some, points that you can remember throughout your advocacy, because at the end of the day, if you have your Green Amendment rights, it's also fully within your right to use those protections that you've secured in the Constitution. So hopefully this guide is also inspirational to folks and makes it feel like a little bit less of, you know, a scary thing to go about and advocate for the rights that are yours in your state constitutions. Um, of course, we have more ways that you can continue your education and learn more. Um, a great way to stay involved in your state's movement is by joining our Green Amendments Action platform. So we have all the links to do that in here. Those are great forums for Green Amendments exclusive content. We post hot news and action events there. So again, every resource we've tried to coalesce into this guide right here. And things are ever evolving. Hopefully, we'll have to keep updating this as more and more states get their own green amendments. But this is what we have for this evening. We have some information on our ambassador program here. And we also have, some sample ways of being an ambassador, how you might go about your outreach and engagement. For example, going to various supervisors or commission meetings, organizing speaking events, using press and social media. You'll notice that some of these blurbs, they aren't too long because we will link, like, for example, to a bunch of other resources here. So if you have your digital copy, I believe all these hot links should work. And you'll be able to just open up these different windows quite easily. Again, linking to various different like book resources and film resources that we have. And I will just show you too. Again, here is our whole last page of recommended resources. So if there's anything in this guide, any question that it didn't answer, there's a very good chance that's because we have an even more detailed resource on that specific thing somewhere else. So we wanted to put these various links here at the end. So if there's something that you wanted to dive deeper on, you can do so. So again, this is just an overview of our guide. I'm not going to step through every piece today because I don't think that would be too interesting of a presentation to give. Really, this is just, the appetizer. So everybody is aware of what is available to them in the guide, and really an encouragement to everybody to download their own copies today. So in order to do that, we do have some links here. Since most folks might be on their computers, maybe you have your phone to the side, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, and it will take you to a web page on our website. It just has a little form where you enter in your information, and then you'll be provided with two download links, one for states with green amendments and one for states working to secure green amendments. And as I mentioned when we were stepping through our guide, if your group would like a personalized presentation on any of the content in the guide, if there's a want to really break down the entire how to utilize your state's green amendment section, and go point by point in there, we're happy to do that. Or if you want any physical copies, please do reach out to us at gaftg@forthegenerations.org. We're happy to print some copies and mail them to our advocates. Again, we want to be a resource and we want this resource to be accessible to as many folks as possible. Um, and I can just go ahead and show people what it will look like really quick. If they do, go ahead and scan this code or type in this bit.ly link here. Just so it all seems familiar when you get there. You'll see you're on our website here, and there's just a little form that you'll fill out and you'll get the People's Action Guide. We also have some instructions there if you do want to put in a request for a printed toolkit. So this presentation, this launch event is pretty short and sweet on my end. Again, we just wanted to let you all know that this really amazing resource is available. Hopefully, everybody finds it very useful for their advocacy. Even if there's one point in there, one nugget of knowledge that you didn't have before that changes your advocacy efforts, or one piece of advice or one skill that you pick up from reading the guide. We're just really excited to have this as a resource and hopefully engage even more people in our movement, make it easier to join in our Green Amendment efforts now that we have this helpful toolkit.